Evening, everyone. I just wanted to have a quick talk about stress inoculation as part of a training methodology. Reason being, having spent the day on the range today with wild medics, combative concepts, and street smart survival, and a whole bunch of students where they got put through their paces, pretending to be put under a lot of stress, where they were in a simulated ambush, where they got attacked, obviously a simulated attack, but an attack that was quite physical. It got the hearts racing, it got the blood pumping, it got adrenaline dumps going, putting guys in quite a stressful situation, and then immediately requiring them right upon the resolution of that incident to deal with a casualty event where they had to assess a patient and stop a bleed from a femoral artery. And you see an interesting way in how guys approached that situation, pertaining to how they communicated, how they processed information, how they conveyed information, how they made decisions, as well as how they actually physically performed the required tasks in order to solve the problem. In this case, the problem was a femoral artery bleed, which would have involved, or which rather did involve, obviously a use of a lot of fake theater blood in order to simulate it properly with the required props, but also wiping the wound away, seeing where the blood comes from, packing that wound, putting pressure on it, and preventing the person from bleeding out of that gash, so to speak. And of course, there was also a sacking chest wound that was simulated, and it was an interesting sort of scenario to see how people made decisions under stress differently, and some obviously did better than others. You saw generally quite a bit of fixation upon, getting gloves on, in some cases, fixating upon the tools, fixating upon the chest wound that was sucking, as opposed to fixating on the femoral bleed that was going to kill the patient far, far faster. Communication breakdowns or total lack of communication in some aspects. All the stuff you typically see in high stress situations, and stuff that was, we saw a lot in the airlines when you went into simulator every 6 months and you had engines on fire and cabin fires and all sorts of severe abnormalities and emergencies. The takeaway from this is, you don't ridicule a guy for struggling under pressure. You need to give them the tools to succeed later on. And a part of this is to actually expose people to high pressure situations, because there are people that are naturally okay at working under extreme pressure, under adrenaline dumps, that sort of stuff. But most people suffer a significant level of cognitive impairment. And the only way to maintain your mental faculties and to get your breathing under control and to retain your required motor skills to get certain tasks done is to become suitably stress inoculated. And the only way you become stress inoculated, where you are not necessarily immune to the effects of extreme stress, but that you've become more or less physiologically and psychologically better equipped to handle and absorb those stresses and work around them, and that they don't affect you remotely as adversely as they would affect someone who isn't inoculated, is to be repetitively exposed to these types of training scenarios, where preferably you're doing the scenario blind, because people are, if you give them a briefing beforehand, they tend to game scenarios because it's not real, right? It's just a simulation. If you do these things blind and you use other methods of imposing stress, i.e. putting them in a mock fight, mock ambush, and then using your voice to modulate further stress and putting pressure on them, it forces the person to act under stress and under pressure. And you do that enough to someone, they eventually start becoming used to the effects of the stress. They think better, they process information better with their cognitive functioning, they communicate better, they make better decisions, and they actually carry those decisions out better and ultimately end up with a much better result. And this is a very long-winded way for me to say that that's one of the effects that training has, is go out there, go do some training under stress, put yourself under pressure, push yourself to a boundary, where you can actually reach a failure point so you can assess just how stress inoculated you are and also get used to doing it more often. See you on the range soon.